I think the Fed is almost in panic mode. We've had interest rates decreasing for more or less 30 years on the whole, but they've started an uptrend, and that's going to continue, in my opinion. It's one of these crazy things that you've got this big group of government bureaucrats trying to control the price of money, which in a truly free economy, in places like the Fed, the Bank of England, central banks, they wouldn't exist. The free market is the only thing that works, and that's why, from an investment point of view, you have to take action.
Welcome back to Acequisition. In this asset protection video, we're going to be covering the Fed's 50 basis point interest rate cut, what you should be doing as a result of that, inflation, and why price controls aren't actually a good thing. If any of our channel's 5 key verticals, stocks and shares, including commodities, acquisitions, including you yourself potentially taking part in hostile takeovers of public companies with us, profit maximization, asset protection, and tax minimization, sounds like everything you'd ever need in your finance journey, please don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and join our Discord chat room linked in the description so you can get in these plays and opportunities when we do. Big day yesterday, 50 basis point reduction as opposed to what some thought was going to be a 25 basis point.
I don't think it was too much of a surprise that they cut by 50 basis points. I think the Fed is almost in panic mode because they see the economy starting to decline, and they feel they have to do something. And there's also the case that the Fed always tends to support the party in power, the party in government at the time. So they want the economy to pick up before the election. But of course, they've left it far too late for that. The economy is where it is, and the changes that the Fed rate cut may cause won't be felt until into next year now. There's no chance of anything being felt by November. But it's one of these crazy things that you've got this big group of government bureaucrats trying to control the price of money, which in a truly free economy, in places like the Fed, the Bank of England, central banks, they wouldn't exist. It should be for the market to set the price of money, not the Fed. I mean, we've had the presidential candidates, both presidential candidates in the US, Trump and Kamala, talking about price controls. Trump, the other day, I don't know if you noticed, he said that he wanted to cap the interest rate on credit cards at 10%. Of course, everybody likes these kind of ideas. It sounds good. These people are saying this to get votes, but it's a crazy idea. It's insane. No, I understand that nobody wants to pay high interest rates on their credit cards. Well, don't borrow money on them then if you don't want to pay high interest rates. But it's a price control, and of course you had the other woman, Kamala, saying she wants to have price controls on food. But everybody should know, we've all seen this time and time again with socialism. As soon as you put price controls on something, it means that you have less of that product available. So if you put price controls on food, you'll eventually end up with no food on the shelves, like you had in the old Soviet Union. Then you have lines for bread, and with price controls on credit cards, you just have less credit available to people that have credit cards, because the reason that the interest rates are high on credit cards is to subsidize the people that don't pay. There's no, that's the business model of the banks that issue credit cards. So price controls just never work. But it's an obvious thing that all these these people in government like to do to win votes, and they think they can pull strings and control the economy, which brings us back to the Fed. The Fed's been in existence since 1913, 111 years now, and the economy worked much better without a government central bank. The country, various countries went for hundreds of years without central banks and without inflation at all.
Links back to our last video, doesn't it, on the gold standard and gold and why to invest. Obviously that can be linked up here for people to watch that.
It always amazes me that people are thinking 2% inflation a year is somehow a good thing. Why is it a good thing? You're losing 2% of your money every year. It doesn't take too long with compounding to lose all your money if your money's sitting in the bank account. It's insane that people think 2% inflation is a good idea, but these governments have no choice but to print money and create inflation, because otherwise
would they argue it's to stop hoarding? Would they argue that, do you think?
I think they would argue that they don't want deflation, which is what you're saying, of course, that they don't want people waiting for prices to go down. But of course, anyone who buys a TV or a personal computer or a mobile phone, on the whole, prices have decreased in the last 30 or 40 years. It's a good thing. And people will buy things as they need them and as technology improves. Whereas we see things like food and energy prices increasing dramatically over the last few years. So the essentials are going up. And I think most people would say that inflation is a lot more than 2 or 3% on things like food and energy. We all see that. And these are things that affect the poorer people more than anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a free market is much better, and we've mentioned that before. And I think a lot of people agree, and that's why so many people love crypto as well. So free market.
Yeah, the free market is the only thing that works, and that's why, from an investment point of view, you have to take action to make sure you protect your assets. Don't rely on pieces of paper printed by the government as your money. Put it in something else that's safe. We've spoken about gold before, but we can also speak about other types of commodities.
And just before we go on to that, back to this Fed rate 50 basis point cut, every time that they've done that over history, not immediately as you're saying, but like relatively, soon, within half a year after that cut, that each time the market has had a decent correction. So that's something to obviously bear in mind as well.
I think people will see it for what it is. It's the Fed panicking. It's them trying to control something that they ultimately will not be able to control. They've managed to kick the can down the road for years to avoid a huge recession. They're not going to avoid it for much longer. And the market forces will win in the end. We've had interest rates decreasing for more or less 30 years on the whole, but they've started an uptrend, and that's going to continue, in my opinion.
As for me, I like the stock.
Order filled.